just bad ideas. And again, this ugly streak,
Well, you look
ugly streak of anti-Semitism.
Who's the most popular politician on the left?
AOC? I don't know.
One of, but who's, Bernie is,
Bernie, yeah.
Bernie is, I mean, he's not a capitalist, you know?
No, he's not. And he's also not president.
But
never would be.
But neither is Mamdani.
No, but he will, trust me, he will be featured in the campaign commercials.
But they're going to feature people, they've boogeyman everybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to boogeyman him. He does it to himself.
You know, sometimes it feels like American politics is stuck in a never-ending episode of who can go further off the deep end. And lately, Bill Maher has been one of the few voices actually daring to point out just how absurd that's gotten. This time, he's not going after the far right. No, he's taking aim squarely at the Democrats. And honestly, he's got a point. Maher's new monologue zeroes in on the left's growing flirtation with socialism, especially the rise of people like Zoran Mandani, this fresh-faced democratic socialist from New York. The guy's out here pushing rent freezes, government-owned grocery stores, fair, free public transit, you name it. Sounds like paradise, right? Well, until you remember that government-run and efficient have never really belonged in the same sentence. Maher starts by laying out something simple but profound. America was built on two core pillars: democracy and capitalism, two sides of the same coin. You need both. But right now, it feels like one political party wants to get rid of capitalism and the other seems a little too casual about democracy. Republicans, according to Maher, put faith, nationalism, and winning above all else. And Democrats, well, they're busy trying to convince everyone that capitalism, the same system that made America a global superpower, is the enemy. Now, Maher drops a stat that should make everyone's jaw drop. He says 74% of Democrats say they support democratic socialism. 74%. That means only 16% still stand by capitalism. The same system that, love it or hate it, created the modern middle class. You don't need a PhD in economics to see where that road leads.
To me, that there are two pillars that this country is founded on. One is democracy, and one is capitalism, free markets. And it seems like one party wants to get rid of one, and the other party wants to get rid of the other, right? The Republicans are not that, democracy is just not number one on their list. It just isn't. It isn't. It's behind Christianity and a few other things. And the Democrats, I mean, I read these, 74% are for democratic socialism. Only 16% favor capitalism. Is this going to be a country that I don't recognize in 5 to 10 years if we don't have these two pillars?
Let's just pause there for a second. 74%. That's like 3 out of every 4 people in your office deciding the company should stop making money and start handing out participation trophies instead. Who's paying the bills? Who's keeping the lights on? Nobody seems to know, but apparently, free stuff for everyone is the new campaign slogan. And this is where Maher's point really lands. He's not saying Republicans are perfect, far from it, but he's warning that Democrats are steering straight toward a cliff by letting socialism take over their brand. Because here's the thing. You can't turn someone like Mamdani into a boogeyman when he's already doing all the boogeyman work himself. The guy proudly calls himself a democratic socialist, talks about seizing the means of production, and wants the government to control basic industries. Maher jokes that if Democrats keep putting people like that front and center, they might as well gift wrap the next election for Republicans. J.D. Vance, or whoever the GOP runs next, won't even need to campaign. They can just play Mamdani's speeches on repeat and call it a day.
Where are the Democrats going with this? If Mamdani is the face of the Democrats on the East Coast and Katie Porter is the face on the West Coast, I don't know if that's great.
And Maher's right, voters aren't blind. Americans know the difference between compassion and chaos. They can tell when an idea sounds great in theory, but falls apart in reality. Mamdani's platform, with all its promises of fairness and equality, might sound inspiring in a college dorm room, but in the real world, it's an economic disaster waiting to happen. Just look at history. Every country that's gone down that road, Cuba, Venezuela, the old Soviet Union, started with the same promises: equality, justice, free everything. And every single one of them ended up with empty shelves, government corruption, and citizens fighting over basic necessities. That's not compassion, that's collapse.
Walking commercial for the Republican Party
I think the
nationally.
Republicans are gonna-
When
the
you let
Republicans-
the Democrats, socialists, and now they're actually calling themselves socialists. When you let them
but you
take
look at-
over a major American city, this is what you get. The state-run grocery stores, which worked so well in Cuba and the Soviet Union.
But what's even crazier is how some young voters seem eager to try it all again, like they've never opened a history book. Maybe it's because they didn't live through the Cold War or see the endless breadlines of socialist economies. To them, socialism sounds edgy and progressive. But Maher calls it what it really is, naive idealism wrapped in a shiny new hashtag. And he makes another strong point. This isn't just a New York thing. What happens in New York ripples across the country. It's the media capital, the financial capital. It sets the tone for what becomes national. So, when someone like Mamdani starts gaining influence there, it's not just about one city, it's a glimpse of where the Democratic Party might be headed. And if that path keeps leading toward government control, high taxes, and endless social programs, America could start to look a lot less like the land of opportunity and a lot more like a failed experiment built on good intentions gone wrong.
New York is New York. It's definitely it's the media capital, the financial capital. It is a bellwether like no other city is in this country. So don't tell me that who the mayor of New York is doesn't matter.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. Do you think, let's say, on the seize the means of production, do you think that the mayor, that one person, if he's a democratic socialist, do you think that he would have the power and influence to be able to, like, usher in socialism?
He definitely has the power and influence to elect J.D. Vance or whoever is the...
Maher doesn't hold back either. He calls out the hypocrisy of Democrats who act outraged when conservatives criticize them, yet keep proving those critics right through their own actions. Take Gavin Newsom, for example. He completely mishandled wildfire management in California, not because of climate change, but because he redirected water from fire zones to protect fish habitats. Then there's Nancy Pelosi, who faced backlash over insider trading accusations that earned her millions. And yet, every time they get caught, the left insists it's just a smear campaign. Sorry, but at some point, you stop being the victim and start being the problem.
But they'll do it regardless. Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, but
they make anybody into boogeyman.
it has...
I think it was
just have more weight when it's real.
And that's Maher's frustration in a nutshell. He's saying the left doesn't even need enemies anymore. It's doing a perfectly good job of destroying itself. Now, let's talk about Mamdani's biggest red flag, his comments on Israel. Maher calls out what he sees as an ugly streak of anti-Semitism creeping into parts of the left, and that's not something anyone should ignore. When criticism of a government turns into hostility toward an entire people, that's not activism, it's prejudice hiding behind politics.
Ideas, and again, this ugly streak.
Well, you look
ugly streak of anti-Semitism.
Who's the most popular politician on the left?
AOC? I don't know.
One of, but who's Bernie? Bernie is
Bernie, yeah.
Bernie is. I mean, he's not a capitalist. You know.
No, he's not, and he's also not president.
He's not. But
never would be.
But neither is Mamdani.
No. No, but he will, trust me, he will be featured in the campaign commercials.
But they're going to feature people. They boogeyman everybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to boogeyman him. He does it to himself.
And it's exactly the kind of thing that pushes away moderate voters who still believe in balance and decency. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, you see why Maher is sounding the alarm. The Democratic Party is drifting towards socialist ideas, ignoring basic economic reality, and brushing off real concerns about extremism. And let's be honest, Maher isn't a conservative. He's a lifelong liberal, but one with common sense, which in today's politics makes him seem almost radical. He's not saying Democrats should give up on compassion or equality. He's saying they need to stop confusing those values with government control. There's a big difference between helping people and tying them down with endless bureaucracy.
Be horrible for a guy like you, who you spent your whole life talking about how government tries to do too much, which it does, and spends too much. And here you have Trump, who is the Republican, who is aggrandizing more power than anybody, as we just talked about. And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mamdani, right? Okay, who's like a straight-up communist. I mean, he is. He talks about, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
Yeah, when Maher jokes that every 20 years America needs a little experiment with socialism just to remind people why it doesn't work, he's not wrong. It's like touching a hot stove. Every generation seems to need to burn their fingers before realizing it hurts.
Years or so, we need a conspicuous, confined experiment with socialism so we can crack it up again. Socialist slogan used to be, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. The new socialist slogan is, trust us, this time it won't be.
He even shares this great old quote from a British socialist after World War II who said, "We have a nation bedded on coal, surrounded by fish." It would take an organizational genius to have a shortage of either. 3 years later, they were short on both. That's socialism in a nutshell. The government steps in, says, "Don't worry, we've got this," and somehow manages to mess up things no one thought could be messed up. So yeah, when Maher jokes that if Democrats put Mandani and AOC on the same presidential ticket, it would be political suicide, he's not exaggerating. That ticket might excite the Twitter crowd, but it would send moderates, independents, and working-class voters running for the exits.
So, when the post-war Labour government in Britain was about to get started, one of their leading lights was a socialist named Nurian Bevan. He said, what could go wrong? He said, we have a nation bedded on coal, surrounded by fish. It would take an organizational genius to have a shortage of either. In 3 years, they had a shortage of...
Older voters, especially those who've seen how fragile economies can be, aren't buying into it. They know what happens when ideology replaces practicality because they've lived through recessions, inflation, and energy crises. They understand the cost of utopian thinking. And that's the heart of Maher's warning. He's not attacking progressivism itself. He's warning about losing touch with reality. The Democratic Party keeps chasing applause from social media and college campuses while ignoring the real problems that matter to everyday Americans. People aren't losing sleep over pronouns or transit equity policies. They're worried about rent, gas prices, and groceries. They're focused on jobs, not gender studies. It's not about how many likes your speech gets at Coachella. It's about who actually shows up to vote on Election Day. And if Democrats keep amplifying far-left voices that alienate middle America, they're going to learn that lesson the hard way. Maher even jokes that Cory Booker once talked for 25 hours straight about nothing, and that kind of empty talk perfectly sums up the Democratic strategy right now. It's all noise, no solutions.
What about the big crowds that come out to you when you're talking in a festival or wherever they are? I think it's because I think Bernie showed up at Coachella. That must have been fun for the fans. It's who shows up on Election Day. And I just don't see that's the ticket. I mean, Cory Booker, I know you've worked with him. I like Cory a lot from my home state of New Jersey. Made a speech for 25 hours. Again, just whacking each other off. This is just not what's going to get the job done.
Here's the hard truth. People want leadership, not lectures. They want someone who understands their daily struggles, not someone preaching economic theory from an ivory tower. And maybe that's the lesson Maher is trying to teach his own side. The Democratic Party doesn't need to abandon its ideals, it just needs to come back down to earth. It needs candidates who talk like real people, not ideology robots. Leaders who know what it's like to fill up a gas tank, pay a mortgage, and deal with real-world problems. People who care about fixing things, not just scoring political points. Because at the end of the day, politics isn't about creating a perfect world, it's about balance. Compassion balanced with practicality. Equality balanced with opportunity. Freedom balanced with responsibility.